Hey there, gang. So I have a new program and wanted to cover that for you today. But more than a new program, I'm going to go over some of the more housekeeping type things that we don't usually talk about with programming. So if you're more interested in the numbers, the volume, the intensity, and all those kind of numbers for the program, just click down below to the timestamps that I always put down there for you guys and go ahead and run to that. But first, I wanted to go over the items that really make your training work, that make your training progress, and keep you in the gym, more importantly. So this year, during this program, I'm going all in for recovery. I'm really going to step up my game. And for those of you who were around for my prep and for my program last year, when I competed in both powerlifting and bodybuilding, I am on top of my game when it comes to recovery. I have a sleep course that I put out, linked below for you guys, that I put on the YouTube channel a couple years ago. I am pretty religious about my warm-up, my workups, my prehab, etc. Got another video on that for you from last year. I'm very big on hydration going into my training. It's not so much that I take different supplements and make sure that I have a certain quota of water, etc. I just simply look at my urine. If it's clear, I'm ready to train. And then I'm big on my fruits and my vegetables. That is something else that I documented in the link below if you are interested in viewing that. So on top of those things that I already am doing, I'm going to be stepping it up even further. So I've got a little Fitbit here that was probably one of the best Christmas presents that my wife ever got me about 2 or 3 years ago. I'm going to make sure that I'm kind of monitoring my readiness and I'm logging it in my log. So that way I can kind of see trends when my readiness is the best and when it's the lowest. And then I can adjust my training somewhat based on what my readiness looks like. And I'll combine that with my sleep scores and my sleep patterns to know when I can really attack the training and when I can't, and when I had better back things off a little bit. I'm going to pay a lot of attention to my training performance. You guys are going to see I've brought my volume way down in training. The intensity is still there. It's still high. It's still heavy loads for powerlifting. It's still training to failure and using post-failure partials on occasion. But volume, overall volume is way down purposely because I'm focused on recovery. So I am going to pay a lot of attention to my ability to progress with my training. I really don't have a progression plan. It is very auto-regulated, especially on the power lifts, the squat, the bench, and the deadlift. But I'm going to pay little attention to adhering to a progression plan, and I'm going to pay more attention to my ability to progress in my training. And you'll see that when I go over my new program and how I am going to track that particular metric. So those are the aspects of my new program that are essentially going to help me to adhere to my program, both in terms of staying healthy, getting in the gym and being able to do my lifts, for the most part, pain-free. But then also the mental aspect of making sure that I'm not going into any particular session dreading my training or trying to rush through it or questioning whether or not I'm ready for this session because I have not eaten or I have eaten or I've eaten too much. Those are things that have really affected me here as of late. I would not go into my training if I was fearful that I didn't eat enough. If I was fearful that it's too late and I've got a consultation coming up and I may not have enough time. Those things have all been eliminated in this program because the volume is much lower and I can get in and out of the session in a much more reasonable time while making the intensity of the session still pretty darn high and to Brad's usual intensity. So now we'll get into the program itself and we'll get into those numbers that some of you were probably eager to see. Alrighty, gang. So here's what everybody really came for and what they thought I was saying when I was talking about the new program. I'm going to go ahead and orientate y'all to my sheet. Here, what we've got is the split. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, etc. It's a 5-day-a-week split. All right. Here, as we scroll this way, I've got the entire program laid out. Week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. Everything's color coded. So this is kind of a volume block. This is an intensity block. And then this is a peaking block. And then lastly, down here at the very bottom, All of my volume from my old program before I'd lowered volume to this program here is automatically calculated. So that is essentially the sheet orientation. So first we'll go over the program itself. On each of my lifts, the squat, the bench press, and then my SBD day here, there is a increasing amount of effort with top singles, starting with an RPE 8 for the first 6 weeks. Then it goes up to an RPE 9. However, you can see that the reps drop from 5 to 4 in what is essentially a good old-fashioned linear periodized style. As we transition from the intensity block, the effort on the top single increases from a 9 to a 9.5. And then you can see that there is an accompanying drop in repetitions from 4s to 3s. And then as we go through the peaking block, the top singles increase from 9.5 to 10. Now, the SBD day is a little bit lower effort. We're going to go 7s on the top singles for both squat and bench. We're going to go 8s on the deadlift. There's going to be increasing volume in sets periodically. And then, of course, the increasing effort and the drop in repetitions as we traverse through the entire peaking block. So that's the program. Now we'll go over the split. So we've got a 5-day-a-week split. Workout 1 is squat/lower. So there's competition squat, as I indicated, a single with some back downs, then supersetting RDLs and calf raises. And then the plan was Bulgarian split squats, but we'll talk about that here in a few seconds because I have run a couple of weeks of this program and I may need to adjust a few things. We'll see. Day 2 is bodybuilding. It's pretty much all lats with a sprinkling of delts and triceps. Day 3 is bench press with a sprinkling of lats. Day 4 is delts, arms with a sprinkling of calves right here. And then day 5 is an SBD. Now, in case you're wondering what these are right here that you can barely see, that's just a place where I can enter extra singles if I am working up and it's above an RPE 7, but I haven't quite yet made an RPE 8 or an RPE 9, etc. Most of the time, I'll be probably leaving those blank, but in case I end up doing 2 singles, I have a place to record it. And again, all my volume is down here, 11 sets of lats, 16 sets of biceps, etc. Now, in case you're wondering why there is 14.6 sets of triceps per week, 6.8 sets of quadriceps, and likewise 3.6 sets of bench press and 4.6 sets of squats. That is the average sets per week for the entire block. And this is due to the increasing set volume nature of the program. So you can see on both squat and bench press, we start increasing the number of back down sets as we go through the block. We start with 1 back down set on squat, none on bench press. And then we keep going through the block with increasing number of sets. So we go from 1 to 2, and then from 2 to 3, and then the intensity block is essentially the highest number of sets, the highest volume. There's 3 of each of the squat and the bench press. But then as we go through the intensity block and into the peaking block, effort is increasing, but we decrease the set volume as we are peaking for competition. Now, if you are interested in this sheet, you will get this sheet along with your subscription to 3DMJ Vault, and you will find it in the bodybuilding program design course. When you take that course, you get a copy of this sheet, or at least something that's similar to it. So getting back to the program, I have run this for a few weeks now. So in this introductory cycle, I kind of found out that running Bulgarian split squats on this day here, it simply has just not been happening. This day takes a long while. Squat for me and working up to a heavy single takes a while. So I may end up moving those split squats down here to the SBD day where I do a single on squat, a single on bench, and then a single on deadlift with some accompanying back downs. Likewise, I wanted to get a little bit more back volume. So I have multiple days of a week frequency. I've got back here on day 2, and then I have it again here on day 3. But to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, I added a set of pull-ups to failure to increase the number of pull downs and also be able to record my performance. I'll always do the pull-ups last. I'll only do one set to failure, and then I'll be able to monitor my performance and see if those numbers go up each and every week. Otherwise, you can see that obviously lower body is twice a week frequency with squatting on Monday and on Friday, as well as hamstrings with RDLs on Monday and then deadlift on Fridays. Delts are getting 2 times a week as I have my cable upright row here on day 2 and then a delt dominant day on day 4. And then my direct bodybuilding work is sprinkled in here and there. So you can see that this program is quite a bit lower in respect to my previous program in sets per week. However, I did that on purpose, mostly for stress levels. I found out with this much volume and with the amount of adult responsibilities that I have right now, I was stressing getting into the gym first thing in the morning. Am I going to perform good? Have I had enough to eat? Have I had too much to eat? Is the session taking too long? Am I going to have enough time before my morning session with my clients and athletes? So I purposely dropped the volume way down in order to get the workouts done in a faster and more efficient fashion. Number 2, I wanted to make sure that I am recovering from all of my training sessions. This much training volume before and in the past, I found myself after about 8 to 10 weeks of continuous training at this volume with deloads incorporated, that it was slowly just kind of grinding me down to where I could not perform very good. So with my all-in effort to stay recovered, I decided to dive in, commit to this program of low volume and fairly high intensity. As you can see, a lot of my last sets, I'm actually failing. And as I indicated, I'm kind of shaking things out here. I've run 1, 2, and 3/4 weeks as I still have my squat, bench, deadlift session to go right here. But from that, I've made these small little adjustments that will help me finalize the program. And then I will start running that program with these little tweaks. I'll be recording it here and I'll follow up with you guys so that you can see how it's going. Once again, thank you for watching. Thank you for your support of the Team 3DMJ YouTube channel. And if you are interested in this sheet and how we do our programming, check out the bodybuilding program design course at 3dmjvault.com.